All right, we've been sent a case to evaluate site number 8. And looking at the case, what we can see is that this would be a great case. This would be a great case for a OptiGuide. As we can see here, there is plenty of tooth structure, and our CEREC scan is plenty big enough. So my only question in this particular case is, one, is the CEREC scan is well integrated, as we can see by the outline of the data here. But my concern is that I believe that the CEREC data was taken prior to the extraction of the tooth. And the reason I say that is right here, I can see that our soft tissue in the cone beam scan is slightly different than our soft tissue in the CEREC scan. And we can also see the tooth right here prior to extraction. Does this matter? Typically, no. The only thing I will say that it could present a little bit of a potential planning issue is that our plans are typically based on the reality of the soft tissue, and in this particular case, the soft tissue is no longer here. Our soft tissue has probably shrunk about 1.5 millimeters or so, so our tooth will be longer. And the other issue that this will present is that our measurements from the tooth is if, for example, if our tooth margin will no longer be where the CEREC scan is, but instead the tooth margin will probably come to about right here. Okay, so just a little bit of data, just to point out some potential discrepancies. So let's just focus on our implant plan. Again, if we're using our checklist, there's a couple of things that I see with this plan. One is a bone position. Two, I have a question on how long ago the tooth was taken out. Was graft done at the time of extraction? And then 3 is the buccal plate in this particular case. So there's some reasonable amount of changes that I would make with this plan. First and foremost, in looking at the cross-sectional view, we can see that if we were to just take some drawings here, and you know, this is what I like to do. I like to visualize what I'm seeing here. Here I can see my bone, just like so, coming in right here. And we can see that we are definitely too close right here. And then also I see that we're coming out the facial of our tooth. So I would like to just, and the other thing I look at is we have quite a bit of space here on the palate. So I would just like to move this implant back a little bit. What that will do is give us more space for this buccal plate. And while we're talking about the buccal plate, I do have a question in regards to whether grafting was done or how long after grafting this scan was taken, because there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy right here. Maybe that's an area that hasn't fully radiographically filled in, but nonetheless it's an area that will require some potential attention during placement and surgery. The next thing is I'm still not screw retained here, so I'd like to go ahead and see if I can create screw retained. And now we're coming through the incisal edge. I'm not going to tip this much that way. You know, I'm still after just trying to get the screw retained. So we can continue to move this implant maybe a hair to the lingual. You know, and then our bone level position, is it going to be right here? You know, where is our bone level position? Probably somewhere in this ballpark. You know, I want 3 to 4 millimeters from the proposed gingival margin. So if I took my diagnosis tool here, and drew my 4 millimeter line from, say, right here. And if we drew our line, because this is a new soft tissue margin, we can see that we've got about 3.5 millimeters, which is about the number I want. So more than likely that is going to be our bone position right about there. And then we just need to try to find a way to idealize screw retained access if possible. And I think by just some minor tweaking here, we can make that happen. And there we go. Now we have a very good chance of making this a screw retained restoration. And then while a 3.5 millimeter implant will certainly work in this particular situation, I would like to see us use a 4.3, and the only question with the 4.3 is going to be the thinness of the buccal plate. So maybe in this particular situation, the 3.5 millimeter implant will be a little bit safer. So again, quite a few corrections, and then if we take a look right here as well, let's take a look in our tangential view. We want to see how everything looks as we move through. There we go. Clip along active slice. And now we can take a look straight on to what's happening there. And we can see that we're a little bit more mesial versus distal. So we need to move our implant a little bit to the distal. And to do that, we would just come here and grab the implant and bodily move it a hair to the distal. And as we're moving it, we can see it moving. And then we have a better position there. I still personally don't like how close this is to the buccal plate, so I would have a tendency to just forego screw retain using CEREC in this particular case, and probably use the Nobel angle screw channel to create my screw retain restoration. One thing I don't like to mess with, as you know, is the buccal plate. So hopefully this has been helpful, and I appreciate you submitting the case.